Hello everyone and welcome to Soul GPS, where we learn to take our lives back in our hands after narcissistic abuse. And this is Ava. And today in this video, I wanted to answer a question that I get quite a lot from my viewers and from my clients. And the question is, why is it that after all that I've been put through, after all the pain, all the suffering, all the proof, all the antics, all the learning from videos, books, doctors, therapists, coaches, whatever, now that I understand who that person is and that it really has no bearing on the quality of myself, why I cannot stop thinking about them, why I can't get them out of my head. Now, the answer to this question is going to be a little bit different for each one of you, because each one of you has a different biography, different sensitivities, different wounds, different histories. But generally, it's going to be the reason why we cannot stop thinking about them is because we are addicted to love. We're addicted to how the narcissist makes us feel. Now, the love of a narcissist is not real love. It is love bombing. It is a way in which they have learned to appease our wounds and acknowledge us and validate us in a way that we haven't been validated or acknowledged before. Now, our idea of what love is comes from our source figures, comes from the earliest parts of our childhood, from the earliest times of our childhood. And what does a child do is we model after our parents. And if their relationship was dysfunctional, and if their relation between each other, and if their relationship towards us was also dysfunctional, then what's going to happen is after years, and I mean, guys, this is not like a day, at a workshop, or it is not like a day where you go and deal with a dysfunctional teacher at the summer camp. This is years of exposure to the same schematic, to the same way of being. That's why it's not easy to work through this and pull it out by the roots. It takes years of work. First, you need to recognize that there's a problem, and then you need to work on it. It can really take a while, and it's deep. But this is what happens. This is how we model. If we're constantly exposed to dysfunction, we're going to think that dysfunction or something a little bit better than is going to be love. It's going to be good. It's going to be fine. Like, it's the thing we're looking for. And it's like this antithesis that gets formed, and we're looking for the thesis, so to speak. It's like a wound gets formed, we're looking for the cure. We're looking for the opposite. So if we haven't received the right acknowledgement, the right validation, care, attention from our parents in the past, or from a sibling, or if someone has hurt us, someone has invalidated us by telling us we were ugly, or we were stupid, or we were this, and a child doesn't forget that. I just recently remembered something. It's funny, I've been thinking about it all my life, but I shoved it so back into my subconscious that it didn't really, I just stopped thinking about it, so I didn't work on this. But it was a really early thing that I was told by someone who was really important to me as a child, and that was that I was too serious. I was just too serious of a kid. So there was something wrong with me. And that is the core wound for most of us, is either I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, it all comes down to the idea of there is something wrong with me. I'm not okay in some way. And a little child doesn't have the ability to pack up the bags, go to their parents and say, listen, I think your relationship is a bit dysfunctional. I'll see you later. I'm going to go live with the parents. With the neighbors across the street, because I think that they can give me what you two cannot. No kid can do that, right? In fact, we so idealize our parents, oftentimes to the status of gods. They're so important. Like, everything they say was like, we think that too. I remember when I was in school, first, second grade, and we started talking about politics. It was the time of, solidarity in Poland, and Wałęsa was making his strides, and da-da-da-da-da. And a lot of people in Poland were divided between communists and capitalists, right? anyway, it was really tough times, and it's kind of similar to what's happening right now in the US. It's different in a sense that, you know, it's different kind of groups that are fighting with each other. But again, there was a division going on in Poland, in our society. And so some kids would like argue, and I remember I was parroting my parents. You know, I had no opinion. I was like, what, 7, 8 years old? I couldn't tell what was what. I didn't understand what I was talking about. I was repeating what they said. And if somebody said anything that ran counter to what I knew my parents' belief was, then they were an instant enemy. So this is how a kid thinks. And you know, codependency and narcissism is a form of arrested development. I admit to this. I know that I have codependent tendencies. Maybe I'm even a full-blown codependent. You know, sometimes I wonder the degree to which I qualify, because I've made so many mistakes in my life. I've done things that were just like, looking back, like, why would I ever put myself in those dangerous situations? But it was all because I wanted the love, the care, the acknowledgement. There was a promise in the air that somehow my needs are going to be met. And these were all psychological needs for the most part. So this is what we do, is we do get this, we get stuck in our development. And I think that the narcissist gets stuck much earlier in the stage of, I don't know, like about 2 years old, where, you know, the child believes that they're really in the center of the world, and they'll just continue thinking that way. And they will behave in a way that is going to challenge their parents, you know, and if a parent is too lenient and it's not going to discipline the child and teach them otherwise, they're going to get away with a lot of aggressive behavior. And they will learn that that is the way to get their way, so to speak. And they will continue going through life this way, just bulldozing over people, taking advantage of them, and never being quite punished unless they're left, right, to their own devices if the partner wakes up and goes the other way. Now, for the codependent, it's a little bit different, because we get stuck in the part where, you know, we take in the information. It's like a spell. We take in the information. There's something wrong with us, and because we're unable to process it, and oftentimes, especially for boys, if they start to cry and they're coerced by their parents, you know, you can't cry, you can't behave this way, da 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 da. For girls, they have their own set, you know, of behaviors that they ought to, also depending on the family, that they ought to meet. You know, so we get stuck. We never end up processing these emotions, and they trail us for the rest of our lives. So we end up being these hurt children in adult bodies. So narcissistic abuse and waking up from it is really an opportunity to get back in touch with those lost parts of ourselves. So I think that this is really important, sacred time in our life. So our source figures make us somehow feel like there's something wrong with us. And then when we meet the narcissist and they do give us the thing that we crave, we've been craving all of our lives, and they have a really keen way to hone in and to zoom in right on those vulnerabilities and give us the nectar, give us the ointment, as I call it. They pour the oil over our wounds, and it feels amazing. Like, finally we were able to you know, meet the person who gets who we are. And there's one more thing I recently became aware of. I'm curious if you guys can relate to this, which is that, you know, the world can be, especially for a sensitive empath, the world can feel kind of dangerous, and it can feel oppressive and not necessarily friendly, and just dealing with people sometimes it's just really difficult. And when you meet that partner that you feel is your soulmate, you feel like you finally met them, it kind of gives you the ability to somehow withdraw from reality a little bit, and now you're with them and you've formed this little bubble. So now you're no longer as required to interact with the crazy, oppressive world, because now you have your own world, you have that partner. So when the relationship falls apart and we walk away, or they leave, they discard us, it can leave us feeling like, you know, our little bubble has been punctured, and now we're exposed to this cruel world again. And some of us maybe have isolated ourselves also to a degree. So it's not so much that it's just narcissists that isolates us from reality. Of course they do that. They do that because they can control us more. But sometimes we also do it willingly, because we just want to spend time with them. they have become the center of our world. So maybe we don't call our friends as much, and the narcissist can feed into that, saying, you know, I know that your girlfriend or boyfriend are actually not that cool because I've heard them talk about you, and that, even if they make stuff up, right? Or they can overinflate certain things to make us really want to spend only time with them. So then when the bubble gets punctured and we get exposed to the world again, and we're no longer with the partner, and we can feel kind of like fools. How did I let myself, you know, get pulled into this crazy relationship? And now I need my friends more than ever, but I've neglected them. So that can bring up some feelings of guilt, feelings of self-sabotage, and so on. So don't let yourself fall into this trap. Forgive yourself. You know, I just want to say this, that we're not perfect either. You know, like the narcissist isn't by any means, as we all know, even though they wish they were, they want to believe that they were, but neither are we. Like, we've made our share of mistakes, and that is okay. That's something we need to also learn to accept and learn to be okay with. And that is the fact that that's what life is all about. Listen, we were born into this reality, into this world without any instructions. Our task is to go on one day at a time, one step at a time, and try to figure this thing out. And oftentimes, or majority of the times, we get source figures, we get models who also don't know how to do this, who also are making mistakes. And so how are we supposed to learn from people who don't know how to do it and then do it right? We can't. So drop the perfectionism, if you have any of it still in you, and just release it and let it all go, and just give yourself the benefit of the doubt and give yourself the room to make mistake. I remember there's this a really interesting guy, Seth Godin. He's like the guru of marketing, and he once said that the more I fail, the more times I fail, the bigger is my chance of success. And he's right. It's because when we make mistakes is when we learn the most. So forgive yourself for making these mistakes. Forgive yourself for having done, you know, all this, putting your self-worth into the hands of the narcissist. Realize that the reason why you feel addicted to them, or you feel like you can't forget about them, is because we have this addiction. And the reason why we have this addiction is because we have a wound inside of us that we have been trying to avoid all of our life because it feels so uncomfortable and so painful. However, let me tell you something, that the less you try to avoid it, the less it's going to hurt. What do I mean by this? In order for us to move past this tremendous vulnerability that we have and actually heal ourselves, what we need to do is something that maybe seems like it makes no sense, but we actually have to get into it and let ourselves feel the pain. We have to feel it in order to heal it. So by letting yourself sit with those emotions and let them come up, and let our intuition, our higher self, speak to us with the messages of, you know, whatever it was that we have encoded within ourselves. Did somebody say something to us? If so, when? See that that is a false belief. See that that is only their own opinion. How do they really know what we are feeling? They only know their own biases. You know, what is an opinion? It's a collection of other person's belief systems, which is as flawed as the other person's. You know, we all carry within ourselves so many flawed beliefs, and so we got to be gentle and not put ourselves down for thinking that, but we can always reprogram it. So the healing really takes a couple of steps. Is on one hand, what you're going to do is you're going to have to really be have self-compassion and be able to really be there for yourself and feel those feelings and let them come up. Now, as you let those feelings come up and you sit with them and you do that for periods of time, you can make that like a meditation practice. It's your feeling meditation. But then you can also start doing new things in your life. Expose yourself to new people. Try to garner new information, follow your interests and hobbies, spend more time doing things that give you pleasure so that you can move towards different life, the life that you want, one tiny step at a time, but also at the same time, really acknowledge the past and really acknowledge your origin and where you come from, and let yourself feel those wounds and be there for yourself to soothe yourself, rather than to carry this vulnerability into the future where somebody else can take advantage of it. So be wary of this. Be wary of this vulnerability being something that exposes you. And also, most importantly, be wary of the fact that this vulnerability and this wound is the hook, is the reason why we get addicted to love. It is not real love. Real, true love is something very different. I'm going to actually make a video about it, but it deals with respect and really good communication, and also acknowledging that neither of the party that's sharing this love is perfect. We're there to help each other grow, not to expect that we're going to be perfect, you know, and fulfill the narcissist's needs, which is what the narcissist expects, is they want their partner to be absolutely perfect, which is quite a task in itself to partner up with a person like that, because we can never, ever, ever fit those shoes that they put before us, especially because that vision keeps changing. So the reason why you're addicted, the reason why you can't stop thinking about them, is because there's this propensity to being addicted to this feeling. Know that you can give this feeling to yourself. You do not need somebody else to give it to you, and you do it by acknowledging the feeling, being there for yourself, and also listening to your intuition to let you know what it is that you want more of in your life, and give it to yourself. Be there for yourself, respect yourself, listen to yourself, and always remember to let your inner compass guide you. Thank you so much.